In the world beyond the stone walls of Eldwyn, where iron towers scrape the low clouds, there lies a place known simply as the Whispering Forest. Its trees are impossibly tall, their ancient roots clawing through the black soil like veins. They say the forest is never silent, it only pretends to be. At dusk, the wind carries voices, names, regrets, prayers, soft enough to doubt, yet sharp enough to wound. People say the forest remembers everything, and it never forgives. Our story begins with the man who swore he'd never return. Rowan Vale stood at the forest's edge, his cloak damp with fog, the sword at his side rusted not from neglect, but from disuse. His eyes, once filled with reckless ambition, were now hollow, weighed down by years of bloodshed done in the name of survival. Rowan was once a prodigy, a child blessed by the church, trained to hunt what they called the forest's cursed. He rose quickly, praised for his efficiency, feared for his lack of mercy. But he learned too late that talent, when placed in the wrong hands, is just another word for obedience. As he stood there, the forest stirred. Rowan. His name slid between the trees, a cold breath against his neck. He squeezed his eyes shut. "Not real," he muttered to himself. "You're not real." But the forest never argued. It only waited. Deep within those same woods lived Elira Thorne, a woman the outcasts called the Listener. She didn't fear the whispers. She answered them. Her skin bore pale markings, like roots growing just beneath the surface, the sign of a bond formed long ago when the forest saved her life. But at a terrible cost. Elira could hear the truths others buried, the guilt, the desires, the lies spoken and unspoken. This power made her valuable. It also made her incredibly dangerous. She felt Rowan's presence before she ever saw him. The forest tightened around him, branches creaking, leaves trembling not with hostility, but with a chilling recognition. "Elira," the forest murmured, its voice urgent in her mind. She rose to her feet, barefoot on moss darkened by centuries of decay. "He's back," she said quietly, her heart sinking with the weight of those two words. Years earlier, their paths had crossed in fire and ash. The church had declared the forest corrupt, its people disposable. Villages near the woods were vanishing, children spoke of shadows watching them sleep, and Rowan was sent to lead the purge. He was to follow orders, to cleanse the land. Elira was among the survivors of that terrible night. They met under burning branches, and for a split second, Rowan hesitated. That single moment of indecision was just long enough for her to escape. It cost him his rank, his reputation, his entire life's purpose. But it may have saved his soul, though he wouldn't understand that for a long, long time. Now, fate was dragging him back to this place like an unpaid debt. They finally met again at the heart of the forest, beneath a colossal tree that had been split by lightning ages ago. Moonlight filtered through its broken crown, shattering on the ground like fractured glass. Rowan let his sword fall to the earth with a soft thud. "I didn't come to kill you," he said, his voice rough. Elira studied him, her eyes sharp, her own voice calm but brittle. "You never did," she replied. "You came to prove you could." As she spoke, the forest's whispers grew louder, clawing memories to the surface. The screams of the dying, orders shouted over roaring fire, the sickening smell of wet earth and blood. Rowan's hands began to tremble. "They're coming," he said, the words catching in his throat. "The church, they plan to burn everything, this time, properly." A soft laugh escaped Elira's lips, but there was no humor in it. "So you return as a warning? Or as penance?" "I don't know," he admitted, his gaze falling to the forest floor. "Maybe both." It was then that Elira revealed the truth the church had buried for so long. The forest was not a curse, it was a refuge, an ancient, living entity, bound to human sorrow. Those who fled here with unbearable guilt or grief left pieces of themselves behind, their pain becoming part of the woods. The forest grew strong on this suffering, yes, but it also protected those who had nowhere else to go. To destroy it would finally end the whispers and free countless trapped souls. But it would also kill everyone bound to it, including Elira herself. Rowan was faced with the cruel symmetry of it all. "If the forest lives," he said slowly, "the world keeps bleeding. If it dies, Elira replied, her eyes meeting his. So do we. And all around them the forest listened. It was always listening. In the days that followed, their bond grew in stolen moments. They shared quiet talks by dying fires. They found comfort in shared nightmares. Their hands would brush without promise of a future. A fragile, dangerous love took root, built not on hope, but on a deep, shared understanding. They didn't dream of happy endings. They only wanted an honest one. You could leave, Elira told him one night, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Let the forest take me, let the world move on. Rowan slowly shook his head. I spent my whole life choosing the easier evil. A heavy silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken history. This time, he whispered, his voice filled with a conviction he hadn't felt in years. I choose the harder mercy. When the church's armies finally arrived, the dawn bled red through the trees. Rowan stood alone at the forest's edge, his blade drawn. He wasn't there to fight the soldiers, only to delay them, to buy her time. Deeper in the woods, Elira walked toward the forest's heart, answering the whispers one last time. The forest roared, not in anger, but in a profound, earth-shaking grief. Roots tore from the ground. Trees collapsed inward. The very heart of the forest began to consume itself, releasing the trapped voices in a blinding storm of wind and light. As a rain of ash and leaves fell around him, Rowan collapsed, a faint smile on his lips as the whispers finally faded into silence. Years later, the whispering forest was gone. In its place grew a vast, silent field of white flowers that bloomed without season. People said the whispers had stopped for good. But sometimes, when the wind passed gently through the petals, travelers swore they could still hear voices, not begging, not accusing, but simply remembering. And somewhere carved into the roots of a single surviving tree were two names, side by side, not as heroes, not as martyrs, but as proof. Proof that even in a world shaped by cruelty, someone chose to listen. And someone chose to stay. This story isn't about good versus evil. It's about what we do with the pain we inherit. Some turn it into power, some turn it into silence, and a very few turn it into release. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.